The first rays of sunlight stretched across the rooftops of a quiet town. Birds sang in the trees, shopkeepers prepared to open their stores, and people slowly began another ordinary day. But for one young man, this day was different. His name was Ethan. He was only 18 years old. He didn't own expensive clothes, a luxury car, or a large house. He didn't come from a wealthy family, and no one in his neighborhood expected him to become successful. Yet, deep inside his heart burned a dream so powerful that nothing could extinguish it. Every morning, before the rest of the town woke up, Ethan stood outside his apartment and watched the sunrise. As the golden light filled the sky, he whispered the same words every day. One day I will create a life that my family has never imagined. One day I will prove that dreams come true for those who never stop believing. Many people dream, very few decide to act. Ethan wanted to be the one of those few. Ethan lived with his mother in a small apartment. The furniture was old, the walls needed paint, and every month they carefully counted every dollar before paying their bills. Life wasn't easy. Sometimes they had to postpone buying things they needed. Sometimes they had to repair old appliances instead of replacing them. But Ethan's mother never complained. She always smiled. She believed that difficult days were temporary, but good character lasted forever. One evening, Ethan noticed her quietly looking at a pile of bills. She thought he wasn't watching. He walked over and gently asked, "Mom, are you worried?" She smiled softly, a little. "About money." She nodded. Then she looked into Ethan's eyes. "My son, money is important, but it isn't the greatest treasure." "What is?" She smiled. "Hope, honesty, discipline, and faith in yourself. If you protect those four things, success will eventually find you." Those words settled deep into Ethan's heart. That night he couldn't sleep. Instead of worrying, he opened an old notebook. On the first page, he carefully wrote, "My goal. I will become financially free before I turn 30. I will help my mother live without worrying about money." He stared at those words for several minutes. They weren't just ink on paper, they were a promise. The next day, Ethan graduated from high school. His classmates talked excitedly about expensive universities, luxury lifestyles, and excited vacations. Some already had jobs through family connections. Others planned to enjoy life before thinking about the future. Ethan listened quietly. He knew his journey would be different. He didn't have powerful connections, he didn't have inherited wealth, but he possessed something more valuable, a willingness to learn. One afternoon, Ethan visited the town library. He loved libraries because they were full of ideas. Ideas could change life. As he wandered through the finance section, one book caught his attention, The Intelligent Investor. Curious, he borrowed it. At first, many of the ideas seemed difficult, but instead of giving up, Ethan read each chapter twice, then three times. Slowly, everything began making sense. He discovered that successful investors didn't become wealthy overnight. They became wealthy because they stayed patient while everyone else became impatient. That lesson amazed him. Most people wanted instant success, very few were willing to wait. Ethan decided he would become one of the patient ones. After graduation, he found a job at a local grocery store. The work was demanding. Every day he unloaded heavy boxes, stocked shelves, cleaned floors, helped customers. Sometimes he worked until his back hurt and his hand felt sore. But he never complained. Instead, every time he received his paycheck, he smiled. Not because it was a large amount, but it represented another opportunity. He divided every paycheck into three parts. The first helped his mother, the second covered his basic needs, the third went into a savings account labeled future investments. Each deposit made him feel stronger. Each dollar represented discipline. While many friends spent their money on the newest phones and designer shoes, Ethan bought books. People laughed. "You're only 18. Enjoy life. Why are you saving so much?" Ethan smiled. "I'm enjoying life." His friends looked confused. He continued, "I'm enjoying building my future." Months passed. His savings slowly grew. Not hundreds every week, not thousands every month, but little by little. Some people become discouraged because success arrives slowly. Ethan understood that slow progress was still progress. Every evening he continued studying. He watched educational videos about investing. He learned how business grew. He studied successful entrepreneurs. He filled notebook after notebook with lessons. One sentence became his favorite: knowledge is an investment that pays dividends for your entire life. That sentence changed everything. He realized he wasn't just saving money, he was building wisdom. And wisdom would guide every future decision. One rainy afternoon, an elderly customer noticed Ethan reading an investing book during his lunch break. The man smiled. You like investing? Very much, Ethan replied. The old man sat beside him. When I was your age, he said, I thought I had plenty of time. I kept saying I'd start next year. What happened? The man laughed gently. Next year became 10 years, then 20. I finally started investing at 45. He looked directly at Ethan. The greatest gift you have isn't money. What is it? Time. Those simple words echoed inside Ethan's mind long after the conversation ended. That evening he walked home under the cloudy sky feeling more determined than ever. He realized that starting early was one of the greatest advantages anyone could have. When he reached home, he looked once again at the notebook where he had written his dreams. He smiled confidently. I may not be rich today, he whispered, but every day I am becoming the person who can create lasting success. Outside, the rain slowly stopped. The clouds began to part. A bright rainbow appeared across the sky. Ethan looked at it and smiled. To him, it wasn't just a rainbow, it was a reminder that after every storm comes hope. And deep inside his heart, he knew something extraordinary was about to happen. His journey as an investor was only beginning. 3 years passed. Ethan was no longer the uncertain 18-year-old who had nervously made his first investment. Now he was 21. He had stayed faithful to the habits that had changed his life. Every month, without fail, he invested part of his income. Every week, he finished another book. The next morning, Ethan woke up before the sun had fully risen. He looked at the notebook beside his bed and read the promise he had written months ago. I will become financially free. I will build a better life for my family. He smiled. Every time he read those words, they gave him more strength. He knew dreams didn't come true because of luck, they came true because of consistent action. So Ethan got dressed, grabbed his backpack, and headed to work with a determined heart. At the grocery store, Ethan became known as the hardest working employee. He greeted every customer warmly. He helped elderly shoppers carry their bags. He stayed late whenever extra work was needed. His manager noticed. One afternoon, the manager called Ethan into his office. Ethan, he said, I have never seen someone your age work with such dedication. Keep going, your attitude will take you far. Those words filled Ethan with confidence. He realized something important. People may not notice your hard work today, but consistency always gets rewarded. Every payday followed the same routine. Ethan paid his share of the household expenses. He helped his mother buy groceries. Then he placed another portion into his investment savings. His friends couldn't understand. One Saturday, they invited him to buy the latest gaming console. It'll be fun, one of them said. Ethan smiled. I'd rather invest in my future. His friend laughed. You only live once, Ethan answered calmly. Exactly. That's why I want to build a life I'll be proud of. Years later, those same words would inspire many people. After months of studying books and watching educational videos, Ethan finally felt ready to make his first investment. He sat at his desk with his laptop open. His saving account showed $1,500. It had taken almost a year of discipline to save that amount. His hands trembled slightly. He wasn't afraid of investing. He was afraid of making careless decisions. So before clicking the invest button, he reminded himself, never invest based on emotions, invest based on knowledge. He took a deep breath, then he made his first investment. It wasn't a huge amount, but to Ethan it represented something priceless. It was proof that he had stopped dreaming and started acting. For the first few days, Ethan checked his investment every few hours. Sometimes it went up, sometimes it went down. He quickly realized that the market changed everything. 1 week later, something unexpected happened. The market dropped sharply, his investments lost values. The numbers on his screens turned red. Fear rushed into his mind. What if I lose everything? What if everyone who laughed at me was right? For a moment he considered selling, but instead of acting on fear, Ethan opened one of his books. A sentence he had lightened caught his attention. The stock market transfers wealth from the impatient to patient. He smiled. When he closed the app, instead of worrying, he went to work. Instead of panicking, he kept learning. Instead of quitting, he stayed committed. That single decision would become one of the most important moments of his life. Months passed, the market slowly recovered, then it began rising again. Ethan investment returned to profit. He wasn't celebrating because he had made money. He was celebrating because he had learned an invaluable lesson. Patience often earns rewards that panic never can. One evening, Ethan attended a free financial seminar in the city. The speaker was a successful entrepreneur who had built several businesses. He asked the audience, "Who wants to become wealthy?" Every hand went up. Then he asked, "Who is willing to work hard for 10 years before seeing extraordinary success?" Only a few hands remained raised. The entrepreneur smiled. That's the difference between wishing and achieving. Those words stayed with Ethan forever. After the seminar, he walked up to the speaker. "Sir," Ethan asked, "what is the greatest investment?" The entrepreneur smiled warmly. "The greatest investment isn't stocks or businesses." "What is it?" "It's yourself. For the more you learn, the more valuable you become." Ethan thanked him sincerely. From that day onward, he invested not only in market but also in education. 2 years passed. Ethan continued his routine without missing a month. He invested regularly, he read constantly, he improved his skills, he stayed humble. Many people around him changed jobs several times. Some chased quick money schemes, others gave up after small setbacks. Ethan remained focused. He understood that success wasn't about speed, it was about direction. Every small step brought him closer to the life he had imagined. One evening, after finishing another long day at work, Ethan looked at the sunset. He remembered the boy who had once stood outside his apartment with nothing about a dream. That boy had grown, not just financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He had become disciplined, patience, confidence, and for the first time he truly believed that greatness was no longer a distant dream, it was becoming his reality. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Ethan smiled and whispered, "This is the only beginning." He had no idea that the biggest opportunity and the greatest test of his life was waiting just around the corner. 3 years passed. Ethan was no longer the uncertain 18 years old who had nervously made the first investment. Now he was 21. He had stayed faithful to the habits that had changed his life. Every month without fail, he invested part of his income. Every week he finished another book. Every day he looked for the ways to become a better person. People often asked him, "What's your secret?" Ethan always smiled and answered, "There is no secret. Small action repeated constantly create extraordinary results." One morning, Ethan arrived at work as usual. His manager called him into the office. "Ethan," he said with a smile, "your honesty, leadership, and dedication have inspired everyone here. We'd like to offer you a management position." Ethan was speechless. Years earlier, he had been stacking shelves. Now he was leading a team. He accepted the opportunity with gratitude. That evening, he called his mother. "Mom," he said excitedly, "I got promoted." His mother laughed with joy. "I never doubted you for a second." Those simple words meant more than the promotion itself. As his salary increased, Ethan faced a choice. He could buy a luxury car, he could move into an expensive apartment, or he could continue investing in his future. Many people expected him to spend more. Instead, Ethan stayed disciplined. He upgraded his knowledge before upgrading his lifestyle. He invested more every month. He continued helping his mother. He remembered where he had started and never forgot the lesson that had brought him this far. One afternoon, Ethan checked his investment account. He stared at the screen in disbelief. His portfolio had grown far beyond what he had imagined when he had made his first investment. It wasn't because he had found a magic shortcut. It wasn't because he had taken dangerous risks. It had grown because he stayed patient, invested constantly, and never stopped learning. Tears filled his eyes not because of the money, but because he had kept the promise he made as an 18-year-old standing by his bedroom window. That weekend, Ethan surprised his mother. He drove her to a peaceful neighborhood, then stopped in front of a beautiful little house with a garden full of colorful flowers. His mother looked around confused. "Why are we here?" she asked. Ethan smiled. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a set of house keys. She looked at him in amazement. "What is this?" Ethan's voice trembled with emotions. "This is your home, Mom. You spent your life taking care of me. Now it's my turn to take care of you." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she hugged her son tightly. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Sometimes happiness is too powerful for words. News of Ethan's success spread throughout the town. People who had once laughed at his dreams now wanted his advice. Young students asked him how they could become successful. Ethan never talked about getting rich quickly. Instead, he spoke about character. He told them, "Success begins the day you decide to take responsibility for your future." He encouraged them to read books, learn new skills, save money, and invest wisely. He reminded them that every expert was once a beginner. His message inspired hundreds of young people to believe in themselves. A local school invited Ethan to speak at its graduation ceremony. Standing on the stage where students eagerly listened, he remembered his own graduation only a few years earlier. He smiled and began. "When I was your age, people told me I was too young to think about investing. They laughed when I carried books instead of buying expensive things. They laughed when I saved invested of spending." The audience listened carefully. "But I learned something important." He paused. "Your future is created by the choices you make today, not tomorrow." The hall filled with applauses. Many students left that day determined to start building their own dreams. Years later, Ethan established a small foundation that taught financial education to teenagers from families with limited incomes. He believed every young person deserves the chance to understand money, discipline, and investing. He often told his students, "Wealth isn't measured only by what's in your bank account. It's measured by your character, your knowledge, your generosity, and the lives you help improve." His students admired him because he didn't just teach success, he lived it. One peaceful evening, Ethan stood outside his new home and watched another beautiful sunrise. It reminded him of the mornings when he was 18 years old. He smiled. The dream that once seemed impossible had become reality, not because life had been easy, but because he refused to give up. He remembered every difficult day, every sacrifice, every dollar saved, every book read, every lesson learned, and every person who had believed in him, especially his mother. Looking toward the bright horizon, Ethan whispered, "Dreams don't come true because they are easy. They come true because you refuse to stop believing and working for them." The golden sunlight spread across the sky, filling the world with hope, and Ethan knew that his greatest investment had never been money. It had been his mindset. Final message: if you are young, don't wait for the perfect time. Start learning today, start saving today, start improving today. Small steps taken consistently can lead to extraordinary destinations. Remember, age do not determine success. Your habits do. Your future is created by the decision you make today. Believe in yourself, stay patient, keep learning, and never give up.